amount of quartz inside have to be very great. So in some countries I saw quartz sand from very poor and low quality, and of course it's very necessary to have some good quartz. Well, before I was to lunch I showed and told you the most important part, and be really careful, it's a very dangerous part following now. We have to fill in the quartz sand into our reactor, and the problem is we have to fill in the sand while we use some high voltage or high frequency. So you can decide. I have two possibilities to fill in the sand. The last 3 or 4 greater pyramids I made it with a high voltage transformator, which is used on oil heating systems. It's the transformator which makes the ignition, what's the name in English? It will make, what's the name? I don't know the name in English. Okay, I didn't find the real name in a few minutes, but I think you know what I mean. It's a transformator which will make 20 to 25 kilovolt, and for the small pyramid it's absolutely too dangerous, because you can control it. The quartz sand will get electrical too, and you can get real bad shocks if you fill in the sand. Of course we will not fill in the sand with the hand, so we will make a special tool to fill in the sand. But it's very important still to keep care when you make it with a CB transceiver, because the voltage and the frequency is really high too. I will show it. So my multimeter will go into the error mode when I keep the microphone, and we will fill the sand inside. So it's a very dangerous and a very tricky work. Please be aware for your healthness. Okay, the first thing we have to control is if we have some output to the antenna. And for this I use this SWR meter to control the power output, and of course to control the SWR, the so-called standing wave. It's absolutely normal that we cannot reach any SWR inside this system, because there's absolutely nothing right inside our tube system for the antenna to make good swinging. But it's not necessary, and we don't want to waste too much time if we press the button and if we see the power output, because if we make this more than 2 minutes you have to buy a new ZB or a new amplifier, because there is coming too much power back into the machine, and this will ruin your equipment within 2 or 3 minutes. Well, what I want to show you is the output to our construction now. So we should have now a power about approximately 20 watts. So we have to control it. We need power 20 watts. Okay, we get more than 20. So you can see we have approximately 22, 23 watts. And of course, what I told you, if I make a calibration process, this is the 4 watt power, and the returning power is equal to the 4 watt power. This is normal because we don't have any good possibility for swinging inside of our tube system. But this is not the problem we have. The problem we have is to make our coils powered and to save our body from the high frequency, from the high voltage. So in the next set I will show you the power between the coil and the tube. It's unbelievable, but I can show it. Okay, now we have it here. All we need is our multimeter, and I will get the greatest possible setup. So it's see it. Okay. We can see it good. So, okay. It's not the best. You see, we have 1 volt without anything. So you cannot trust this multimeter to 100%. But it's better than my old one. And maybe you can remember there were plenty of people very sad as I showed them my old multimeter, because they thought I will give some power into the pyramide while I demonstrated it at 2006, 2007. Well, you can see there's a little bit voltage rest in the coil. And now we will keep the microphone. You hear the relay from the amplifier. So, and if we go nearby our demonstration, there is nothing. Okay. So we have some great problem, and we have to fix the problem. So now the error was found. We had some shorty inside of our construction. Well, I want to show it now. If we activate, you see we have no contact, but we have a great radiation here, and there are some positions I can show you. I don't know what I show now. That's the problem, because I don't see into the camera. Now I do see it. So if I go for a distance between 20-25 centimeters, maybe 30 centimeters, and if I go nearby the coil, you will see nothing will happen. So we don't have any contact. But if we make a contact, so we are over range. And this is very necessary. This is absolutely necessary to control this effect before you put in the quartz sand. Okay, in the next step we will tape the microphone switch. We will tape the microphone switch to power. You hear the relay. And as we have this now, we have to work very fast because we have to save our transceiver. So I had here some piece of plastic, and I put the quartz sand inside. Please don't try it with a newspaper or something else. You are not well isolated. And you will see, if we fill this very slowly, you will hear a very, very complicated sound. And you see, the pieces are jumping directly into the tube. Maybe you hear it. There's a noise now inside. And I think if you make this under electricity, they will find the right position inside of the tube. Don't touch the tube now with your fingers or your hand. And please be careful, the quartz sand have to be absolutely dry. You see the smoke. In my case, I put it at 30 minutes into the oven at 180 degrees to make him really dry. So it's unbelievable how much you can put inside. And every time when I make this, I get a little bit headache. So I think it's the radiation from the antenna system. I get a little bit problems with my eyes. I cannot see very sharp. So we have to make it faster and faster. So it's very important not to steer and not to push, because if you make a if you compress it, you destroy the positioning of the quartz crystals. So, the most tricky part is done. Please don't forget, don't steer and don't shake the tube now. It's very important not to shake it and not to steer it and not to make any compression inside. Of course, we have one problem left, and you will see it in the next few seconds. There is too much inside. So there are two possibilities to put it away. But first of all, it's very important to put all the electricity away. If the filling is done, you can put away the CP transceiver, you can put everything away you had before. Now it's very important to change our setup, to go to the next step, to the closing of the system. Now we have to put out the amount of too much material. For this case I have some very cheap de-welder. Maybe you know the system. You press here, you produce a little bit of vacuum, and it's absolutely okay for the quartz sand here. You see, the most is done, and now the final and most important thing. Now it's a joke, it's not very important, because now you get the reward for working okay, working proper. Because I told you the inside tube have to stay in the maximum in the center. If you don't keep care for this, you will not be able to get the second part on the tube. And you see, in my case, it could be a small problem. It could be a small problem. I have to show where's the camera. But we are absolutely okay in the center. We can make this without any great compression. And it's not necessary to make compression to the whole system. It's only necessary that you're in the center of all. And as I told you, don't steer and don't compress the quartz. Of course you can transport him, but you have to make a mark where is upside and where is downside, because you don't have to change the direction of the tube. It's not good for the quartz inside. So I make a small arrow. This is up, that we know what's the right direction. From now on I will not put it somewhere on the table. I will every time control the real direction, and we don't shake it, we don't steer. So in this case I will use my two pieces of wood as transport possibility for the stay. If your reactor will fall down somewhere, you have to resand him, put new sand inside, and make the last step again. Don't think you didn't damage him if you will steer or if this will fall down. It's absolutely necessary not to shake, not to steer, and not to shock this piece now. So, if we put everything together, there's a final step to do. We have to close the entrance holes of the coil with a normal 2-component glue. It's very important that we not get any humidity into the coil. I don't like this poor ugly smelling shit, but we cannot help. So we have to glue here. It doesn't matter which glue